Now.
All right, so mine has started. So, welcome to the podcast. Good morning, everyone. And hello to everyone who I am forcing to watch this on YouTube. This is one of our test podcasts with your two hosts, Red Shadow 212 and I, Aeon Wraith. Hopefully, this will be entertaining to you. If it's not, be sure to let us know why it's not so we can improve. All right, so I kind of wanted to start by discussing our last podcast and ways that you think, we could have done better or um, ways that we can keep it more interesting.
Those are good, valid points. Hmm. I mean, the podcast right now in its infancy is really more of like a stream of consciousness. We're just going off the cuff, coming up with things, willy nilly. But it could have more structure. We could have one main topic that we talk about during the podcast, and then we could branch off from there into our other little tangents. Or we could cover one main topic for 15, 20 minutes, and then spend the rest of the time, talking about
Hmm.
whatever. Um, the first podcast was just kind of all over the place. Um,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, we just talked about whatever, just kind of like flow of conversation type thing. And if we do have guests on, which we will, I was talking to Demon, and he is interested. He was just trying to make him up a little logo,
Mm,
to go at the conference table,
right.
and so maybe a little more structure. If that's what if we get a little more feedback and they want that, um, I've listened to quite a few podcasts, and some of them have structure, some of them don't. It just kind of depends, on what we're talking about. But to be
Hmm.
honest, ours is more like a hodgepodge of all different types of things.
Right. Because I had been talking to one of the people I had forced to watch it, and I asked, you know, whether when I upload to YouTube, should I do our entire podcast or should I go through and edit it to highlights? Um, and they said either or because it kind of, when it comes to editing, right, it's about your editing style, if you can make it entertaining. Uh, but that might take out, if I upload it to YouTube in that manner, it might take out some of the lulls that we had last time, like especially where I was looking for files and such.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. Video editing takes a little while, depending on how you do it.
Hmm.
Especially, and the way that you would clip it, if you did, you just have to make sure that there wasn't any things that were left out of context.
Right.
Because
Which,
sometimes a
yeah.
lull will go into, a topic, or
Hmm.
vice versa. A topic will kind of go into a lull. I personally, when I listen to podcasts that other people have done, I actually prefer all of it.
Okay.
Because like usually in lulls, you kind of get a sense of like kind of how their thought process works,
Oh, okay.
especially in transitions, right? Because most people don't just like I mean, let me back that up. There are people that do that. They hammer them out. We're going to talk about A. We're going to talk about B. We're going to talk about C. We're going to talk about D. And they bam, 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 and they go straight from A to B. No lull,
Right.
just straight from A to B, straight from B to C. And I mean that's fine, but to me that tells me that they're following a list. They're
Right.
they're following a script or whatever. It might not be scripted, they might be ad-libbing some of it. But they have an agenda and they are on point and they're getting there. Um and this is some kind of more of a laid back a conversation between friends, among friends if we have other people on. Um because for the most part, especially here at the beginning, most of our guests are going to be our friends, people that we're close to, people that have common interests.
Hmm.
If we talk about anime, If we talk about computers, if we talk about electronics, stuff like that, um, those will all be things that are easily discussable in a kind of an open forum type of podcast.
Okay. Okay. One
Eh,
thing is I do want to try and start every podcast maybe just by talking about the previous one.
Yeah,
Um, just so that we can have a sense of progress for us,
yeah,
because you had mentioned last week how part of our thing could have been us just recollecting the week, and just saying how things went if we met micro goals, and things like that. I unfortunately did not meet any micro goals this week, just because it was kind of busy. But I just thought that might be an interesting thing to do. Uh, other than that, though, I guess once we get past that, if we don't have an agenda, we can just talk about random stuff
right,
or things that are going on in our life currently that we either think are relevant or that we just want to talk about.
yeah,
For instance, you mentioned anime, and it kind of reminded me. This week, I've been going through a lot of my DVD collection and my VHS collection. I'm pretty much getting rid of anything that's on VHS because I no longer have a VCR. So
if
I just,
uh if any young people tune into this audience, he's really telling his age right now.
oh yeah. So yeah, I don't have a VCR anymore. So we're just getting rid of all of our VHSs, and we're also going through and limiting our DVD collection because it just takes up so much space.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're not wrong. That's one of the crazy things that I didn't really think about it until here recently. I've been kind of, I don't want to say it's a bad thing, but like I'll be thinking about a movie I want to watch, and like I'll jump on Amazon and I'll see if it's on Amazon Prime, like to watch for free, and if it's not, I usually just buy it, especially if it's like less than 10 or 15 bucks,
hmm
even if I already own it, because like in my bedroom I don't have a DVD player. Like I have an Xbox, but I never use it. It's hooked up to my TV. My son plays on it, right?
hmm
But I don't ever use it. I mean, I could if he wasn't using it, like, or playing on it or something. But like if I buy a movie on Amazon, right? I
hmm
can now watch that movie anywhere I have internet or have it downloaded. Like I can download it to my phone. I'll watch it
Right.
anywhere I want. I don't need to have the DVD.
hmm
It's more of a convenience thing. Most of the movies I own on Amazon are movies that I really enjoy.
hmm
So,
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, because I that was one thing I discovered. I had a lot of duplicates.
hmm
Different editions and stuff like that. Because I have three different editions for The Lion King, and unfortunately, I'm keeping them all because they all have different special features, which is unfortunate.
well, I
Um,
mean,
because like when I growing up, The Lion King was my movie, right? When I was a toddler, and even up until I think I was about 7, like that was my favorite movie. Everything I owned was Lion King themed, and so I don't mind having multiple copies of that. But like I had 2 or 3 entire collections of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series,
uh huh,
just because I kept buying updates as they were coming out. Another I had several copies of is Princess Mononoke,
yeah,
just because that is currently my favorite movie.
it's a
I
good,
love that movie, and that was my introduction to Japanese culture,
it's a good movie.
and so it's really kind of influenced who I am as a person. So every time I see a new edition, I buy it. And I just bought a new collector's edition that comes with a soundtrack and a little book. So I was going ahead and getting rid of some of my older copies that don't have as much on there.
That's good. Another thing that takes up space, you mentioned Avatar, is
Hmm.
DVD series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like a movie here and there, or even 10 movies is doesn't take up as much space as maybe one or two TV series.
Hmm.
Like for example, I'm pretty sure every season of House on
Oh yeah. Hmm.
DVD, and there's like 4 or 5 DVDs for every season, and there's like 9 or 10 seasons. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched it,
Hmm.
but there are a ton of discs for those for that show.
I mean, it's a great show. And then I had a similar problem with Dragon Ball GT. Um, for those who weren't around when the show was coming out, they would come out with a disc every so often that had 3 to 5 episodes on it. Not an entire season, just 3 to 5 episodes. So I had like 20 of these discs lined up for a single arc in Dragon Ball GT.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, now you can go and you can buy the collection pack. Where it's like 6 or 7 discs for an arc, which
Yeah.
is much smaller. But that was one thing I was cleaning up just because I didn't realize I had quite so many of those early copies that just have the episode and really just take up a lot of space.
I was trying to think. Was it was it Dragon Ball? I had one DVD series, and I was thinking there was only like 4 episodes for every disc. Of course, it
Hmm.
wasn't a terribly long anime, but like I was thinking, like today, like you might get a disc that's got 9, 10 episodes on it.
Right? Yeah. For instance, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I've been watching, the past several months. I own 6 seasons of that, which take up less space than like my collection of Psych.
Yeah.
Uh, but those have 7 episodes per disc, plus special features and stuff. And that's just that. I mean, part of that comes back to the difference between DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Although I think my Brooklyn Nine-Nine is on a DVD, so that could just be better software of encoding and making the most of the space that you have.
Right. What happened to? I know at one point this was a long time ago. Um, did you guys abandon the DVD carousel idea?
Not necessarily. So we had like a CD carousel, and we ended up using it for our PS2 games and our Xbox games, and we had a list compiled of which slot each one was in. But the problem became that even that was bulky,
Yeah.
and of course, in the early days, you had to have it plugged in, so it was hard to just put in convenient places.
Yeah.
Although recently, we've been talking about getting like a DVD binder. It's just like a binder with a whole bunch of sleeves,
Right.
so that you don't necessarily need the cases, and you can really cut down on space.
Yeah.
But then the problem with that is, especially if we were talking about last week. When you're looking for something to watch, uh, you have to get out the whole binder and flip through every page because it's like, well, what do I have? So unless we made like a list.
Or you could alphabetize them.
Yep, which means that every time I get a new movie, I have to update.
Well, not necessarily. You just have to shift one. I understand that might be a complicated ordeal if you have 100 plus DVDs.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Doing the digital route is to me it is just better because like I don't have to worry about wearing the disc out. I don't have to worry about the disc getting broken. There's my son's getting older now, but there was a time whenever I had to watch him constantly because like if he got his hands on a disc, it was gonna be ruined.
Mm.
And we used to have a DVD player that sat underneath like our TV, right? And it was on a shelf. Well, like if you left a DVD in there, sometimes he would hit the button and it would come out,
Mm.
you know. So we had to, always make sure that it was empty and that it was a so that we didn't get any ruined. I think only one got ruined, and it wasn't even. I think he took it out, but it wasn't necessarily his fault. He took it out, and then it ended up on the floor, and it ended
Ah.
up getting slid up underneath the entertainment center, and I didn't know
Yeah.
it was under there. And then I guess it got scratched by moving or whatever, and but it wasn't like an important movie.
Yeah, the only worry I have, well, I guess it's not really a worry. It's just my preference for physical. This extends not just for movies; it also extends to games. Is that I'd like to have it in case it's no longer available. Because
Yeah.
like for example, you know, Netflix just lost a whole bunch of viewers this year because they finally took The Office off of Netflix.
Hmm.
And when it comes to copyright law and stuff like that and streaming rights, it can get really complicated. And so sometimes you're not sure, excuse me, where it might be or if it may ever be taken off. Because there was a big thing, I can't remember which system this was. I think it was before the Xbox One. They were talking about having it where if you bought a digital game and you no longer wanted it, you could give it to one person after that, and then it wouldn't be allowed to change hands after that.
Mhm.
Unlike a physical copy, which can just circulate, you can go and sell it to a used game store and things like that. And that was just kind of inconvenient, just to like if you're really into a game or you're really into a movie and you go on to go watch it or play it and it's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
Because like I really enjoy the movie Evolution, uh, with David Duchovny and Orlando Jones. I think it's a very funny movie. I like to watch it, and unfortunately, it like I can never be certain as to when I can watch it online because like it'll have a month here, a month there, where it's on a particular streaming site, and then it will just not be there.
Right. That's one of the reasons why I've got into the habit of, like, I don't even have Netflix or Hulu anymore.
Hmm.
And the only reason I keep Prime is not even for the video; it's for the free 2 days shipping.
I mean, isn't that why everyone buys Prime? Is for the shipping?
I mean, not everybody. I would imagine that the bulk gets it for that reason. But there are other reasons to get Prime. One of my coworkers has Prime because they have like a list of ebooks that come out that are Prime, and you can
Mhm.
read them for free.
Yeah.
Although none of the books on there are of interest to me that I've
Well,
seen.
they're those are called first reads. They're books that like just came out.
Hmm.
Like they came out like that week, and so it had changed. It used to be that you could get one for free out of the list, and recently I think it's changed to where like you can get like 50% off on one.
Hmm.
I mean, they're not expensive. When they come out, they're like $5.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes it's hit and miss because like reading, especially when like reading books, like you have your genre, but you also have like particular styles that you love, and finding an author who writes in that style can be difficult, especially when you're just looking at random.
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, like, I spend more time these days talking about books and talking about things that disappear. Like, I spend more time these days rereading books that I already own
Hmm.
than I do trying to find new books, because, like, with I hate to say that I don't have enough time, because I don't like using that as an excuse, but with working the 12-hour shifts and trying to find time to do this and trying to find time to do that, trying to work around the house and play the new video game that came out and watch the new movie that came out, my reading has kind of slipped by the wayside, and most of the reading that I do, I read at work. Like whenever I'm on my break, like we have 20 to 30 minute breaks at work, and
Right.
I'll sit there and I'll prop my phone up on my lunchbox, and while I'm eating my sandwich or my chicken or whatever, I'll just be reading on my phone. And so I've purchased a lot of books on my Kindle app just
Right.
because convenience. I can carry hundreds of books in my pocket, and I always have my phone on me. You
Yeah,
know,
that's one of the only things where I go digital is better is Kindle, just because I love having the entire library in my pocket.
like
Because I
I love a physical book. Don't get me wrong, and I have a
mhm,
ton of them at my house, and I still love to read them at my house. But
mhm,
I can't always carry a physical book with me, especially if it's a hardback big book.
right.
You can't just exactly slip that in your pocket. You might damage it.
Oh yeah.
I don't like
And what if,
damaged
yeah,
books. I don't even like folding pages. I like it
no.
pristine.
Well, I remember I used to have trouble in English class back in high school. I don't know if you did as well. When they told you go in the book and underline the parts that interest you and write off to the side why. I'm like,
But
but it's
no,
a
but
book.
it's a book. You don't write in a
Yeah.
book.
You don't earmark. You don't do all that stuff. You use a nice bookmark. Keep everything nice.
There was one book where they told us to do that, and I went out and bought like 5 packets of sticky notes
Oh yeah.
because you can stick a sticky note in a book, and usually, I mean, sticky notes will come right out. They don't even leave any residue because the stickiness
Hmm.
is not that sticky.
Right.
And I just sticky noted like underneath passages and stuff like that. I didn't even write in the book. I used sticky notes because, like, don't get me wrong. I did write in some books, but I will never write in a book that I either a enjoy or
Hmm.
b like. Like I don't
Yeah.
even have to like the book, like the Odyssey, right?
Right.
It was okay. I didn't love the book. I didn't hate the
Hmm.
book, but I like the book. I like
Right.
the idea of the story.
Hmm.
Even though I didn't wasn't in love with the story, I liked the story. So I wouldn't write in that book. But the only book that I can think of that I really just didn't like that I ended up writing in was The Great Gatsby.
Oh God. I'm just not a fan of like
I
a
just
lot of
didn't
those
like it.
classics.
I
I don't like
didn't
The
like
Great
it.
Gatsby. I don't like The Scarlet Letter.
I like the Scarlet Letter. I mean, it was to me it was like I understand when it was written, it was
Hmm.
not cliche, but
Right.
now, how when was it written? Do you know? 50s, 60s, earlier?
I'd have to see when was Hawthorne. Hold on. Hold on
Like
just a
like
second.
it's been some years since it came out, and like
Oh, definitely.
I've seen that trope 1,000 times in TV shows, movies, other books. So when I read that for the first time, it wasn't a new concept. It wasn't spectacular, in my
No.
opinion.
Well, I mean, like I don't know. Oh wow, no, The Scarlet Letter came out in 1850, my dude.
1850?
1850.
Jesus, I was off by like 100 years.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I've read a couple of Nathaniel Hawthorne stuff, and I just don't enjoy his writing style.
Right.
Um,
I can't name one book that he wrote besides the Scarlet Letter.
I haven't read The House of Seven Gables. I've heard good things about it, but I take that with a grain of salt.
You know it was a good book, although it came out a lot later than The Great Gatsby or The Scarlet Letter was 1984.
I never actually read it.
You never read that?
No, I've always been meaning to. George Orwell is apparently a fantastic storyteller, but like I haven't read that, and I haven't read Animal Farm, which I know are very poignant, you know, societal commentaries,
I've never
and
I've never read Animal Farm.
I just haven't gotten around to it.
All of Michael Crichton's stuff is good. I haven't read a single book that he wrote that I didn't enjoy.
The only one I read of his that was not, I would say, top notch was Next, which was
Next.
about gene splicing,
Yeah, I read it.
which it was a little hard to get into the excuse me. Oh, what is that phrase? The It was hard for me to get into like the state of disbelief, to accept that the story was
Yeah,
happening, just because it was odd and a little, unfathomable for me.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, like I'm not sure how much I don't know much about him in particular, like him as a person.
Hmm.
So I don't know like what kind of background he has. But although his books were purely science fiction,
So
there was a
he,
lot of
excuse me.
like very closely relatable real world stuff.
So he was actually, I want to say he was a biology major.
Oh,
I
okay,
can't
okay.
remember how far he went, but like his first book series that he wrote while he was studying, because it was kind of about what he was doing at the time, was the Andromeda strain, which is about like viruses and stuff.
Mhm.
And apparently, the Andromeda strain, according to some of the people I've talked to that I've read, they said that's his best work, even better than Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
because he is knowledgeable about every single thing in that book, and so it just feels, you know, real.
Right, right. See, like that to me, I've always been my top two go to genres are science fiction and like fantasy. More of
And
like the
yeah,
high fantasy, not
right,
like and
yeah.
like I've read a lot of science fiction books and some of them are like I mean, they're science fantasy. they're not
Yeah.
they're not even remotely relatable to. But that's one of the things that I think that makes science fiction so good, especially well written science fiction,
Hmm.
is it's it's loosely based off of science enough that it feels like it could be real,
Right.
even
Well, I
if
mean, like,
even if it's not, even if
mhm.
like there's no way that that would actually work, it feels like it could be real.
One of the interesting things is if you go back and if you read some of the science fiction from like the 1950s and
Uh
stuff
huh.
like that, it's surprisingly accurate how close we got to those worlds. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember when that story was written. We were reading a story, I want to say it was senior year, where it's a description of a house and all
Uh
the
huh.
stuff that's in it. And at the end of the story, it's like, and then there on the wall are the shadows. Um, because it was about like an atomic bomb came and
Yeah.
vaporized all the people. But the technology that he was referencing in that story is just remarkably close to what actually turned out. Like he was talking about having uh, in the library, you have your own little like audio thing that reads books to you and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, we actually did get that.
Yeah.
And um, I mean, sometimes when you look at how the world has changed over the past 50 to 100 years, it does kind of seem like science fiction. Like, I mean, we have
Yeah.
come a long way, and things that we see now as commonplace would have been seen as impossible,
The
a
the
couple
the
centuries ago.
the probably I don't know if it's in a book or anything like that, but you said scientific something that we wouldn't have thought possible.
Hmm.
One of the things that I was always fascinated with as a young child, especially when I was in kindergarten, first grade, was science.
Hmm.
Specifically, like space science. Like I used to check these books out of the library, like I would just check them out over and over and over again. And one of the books was like real thin because I mean we're talking kindergarten, first grade.
Right.
Like these were real thin, just kind of picture, very little words, but they were NASA books, like pictures of the
Hmm.
moon and the lunar lander, and
Hmm.
the different rockets and the different types of like rockets that we've had. And one of the things that still just blows my mind that I never thought would be possible in our lifetime is like the Falcon rockets that SpaceX has,
Oh, the reusable rockets.
they like fall out of the sky and like their little rocket boosters come
Mm-hmm.
on and they land themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is like I'm very hopeful for that because that will once it's more of an industry standard and not just the Falcon X that's doing that. Um, Once that's an industry standard, that will decrease the cost of space exploration immensely. Because one of our greatest costs, because you have to have the fuel and the parts to get the shuttle up there, and then afterwards, everything that we use to build the frame and everything just to get the shuttle into space stays in our orbit.
Yep.
And so that's you spend several $billion on a rocket, and you just lose it all. I mean, you don't necessarily lose it all. You do get information, and that's what
Well,
scientific
it's like
discovery is about. But it would allow us to do discovery on a much more efficient and faster, process
I mean
because we could
they've
send more
said
satellites.
they've sent so many. In fact, they just set another world record the other day.
Hmm.
Yesterday, day before yesterday. I don't know. I read it on Reddit. They just set a record for most satellites launched
Hmm.
in like a day or a month or whatever. They launched another set of Starlink satellites. Um, but they've like set because used to when they launched the rocket, right? They launched the rocket and the little fuel the fuel thruster the thrusters would break off, right? And
Hmm.
then the tank, the big orange fuel tank would break off, right?
Right.
And they would have to collect that from the ocean or where I would assume usually it fell in the ocean.
Mhm.
They would collect it and put it on a truck and ship it back to Texas or Florida or wherever. Where do they launch from? I guess they
Or
launch from different places.
yeah, I mean, I think SpaceX in Fort Lauderdale.
I am way too sleepy to be. I don't even know. But it was like it would take weeks, if not months. Like we're talking, it would take a long time to be able to use that same rocket again.
Oh yeah, and
And
especially
now,
because
and now they can launch that rocket. I think I don't know what the time has gotten down to. I'd have to research it, but I'm pretty sure that they can launch it within 24 hours of launching it.
they just have to refuel it essentially.
Yeah, they got to
Because
refuel it, and I don't even think they have to attach anything to it. I think it.
just
I'm
because
not
they
sure.
don't have to do like almost any repairs. So that was one of the big things. When you have it crash down to the ocean, that's an impact, and so you'll have like dents and stuff.
Yeah, you might and then you have to test it to make sure that there was no, damage. Even if there wasn't any, like,
Hmm.
even if there wasn't any repairs, you'd still have to test it to make sure it wasn't gonna like
Right.
explode when you launched it again.
Right.
But it's just crazy, cell phones,
Oh my God.
cell phones. Like when I was a kid, like there were cell phones when I was a
Hmm.
kid. Like I'm not that young, but like there I remember having like this big brick of a cell phone like I didn't have it. It was like a toy. Like it had
Hmm.
been my parents and they had gotten something new. But that thing was ginormous and like it
Hmm.
was big, bulky, had an antenna on the top. I remember I was like 4. I think I was around 4 when they got the Motorola flip phone thing that had the
Mm.
big, gigantic battery slide on the back of it,
Yeah.
you know? And now, I mean, uh, you can do like everything that your computer can do,
Well, it's like how the
minus
this.
minus like high intensity
Mhm.
applications like email,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
like paying your bills, calling
Paying your
people,
yeah. Video
texting people.
games, anything really.
I mean, like I remember whenever I was growing up, my mom had to get in a car and drive to the Shell station in Hot Springs to pay her electric bill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. To me, I still don't not 100% understand why she had to drive to a gas station to pay the electric bill.
Most likely she was getting a money order. Some bills require they won't take checks, so you have to get a money order because it's
It
more
it
secure.
wasn't a money order. That they had like a there was a it was a separate window at that gas station. It was at the
Mm.
same counter, but it was around on the side, and you just walked up to them and was like, "Hey, I want to pay my utility bill," and they were like, "Okay, what's your name and address?" And
Mm-hmm.
they would take your cash or your check, and then your electric bill was paid.
Hmm. It's funny. There was a similar system in Japan when I was staying there. I just walked down to the 7-Eleven to pay like my rent and stuff, or not my
Hmm.
rent, but my utilities.
You could also do it at Dodge store. It wasn't just that Shell station. It was just that
Yeah.
that Shell station was like the closest one to our house.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, that's crazy, you know. And now like I remember like whenever we were trying to get a hold of my grandparents or when they were trying to get a hold of us, like you just had the landline in the house, and if you weren't in the
Mm-hmm.
house,
Yeah, it just
you
ran
couldn't
forever.
answer
Like
you
there
couldn't
was.
answer the
Yeah.
phone. Like you're like, oh, I guess they're not there. Let me try again later. Now, if they don't
Mm.
answer, you're like, huh? I wonder why they ignored my call. Because I know they have their cell phone on them.
Yeah.
My mom got so mad at me one night because she called me and I was at work and my phone was on silent and I didn't see her message for like an hour and a half. Because I was working, and then I got on a break, and like she was mad because I didn't call her back, and I was like, I didn't even notice that I had a missed call until like I literally couldn't have my phone out. I was like I could understand like if I'm sitting at the house and I ignored her like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's justified, but I was at work. Like I can't just check my phone whenever.
I don't know if this has happened to you recently. Excuse me. Recently, but like I've had a couple times where someone will call me and for some reason it will go directly to voicemail for them. So my phone doesn't ring. And then I'll look at my phone, 10, 30 minutes later and it's like, you have a voicemail. I'm like, from what? And then like the voicemail, I'm like, my phone never rung. How am I supposed to know if someone's calling me if that doesn't tell me?
I I can't say that I've had that particular thing,
Mm.
but I've had it where like sometimes like I'll try to make a call, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like for me when I make the call it says that the person I'm trying to reach is not available, but they can call me.
Yeah.
But it's not always the same person. It's just different people. It's like for some reason my phone will not call out, but then they can. I'll just be like, I'll just text them and I'll be like, well, call me, and they'll call me just fine. And I'm like, I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes when you call somebody and you connect to them, but one of you can't hear the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Happens all the time to me.
Yeah.
They're like, hello, hello, nothing. They'll call me back, hang up, they call you right back. I could hear you the whole time. Oh,
Yeah.
couldn't hear you. But I mean that's just another example, like I, it's just crazy, like just in our lifetime, just since I've been in high school and graduated high school, we've had a tremendous uptake in electronics and
Mm.
technology in general.
Yeah.
Um, like I can't even begin to like list everything that has been advanced just in the last 20 years.
Well, man, like, could you imagine, like, you know, 40 years ago, like, you're going to go buy a car, and they're like, hey, in 2 or 3 years, this thing's going to be obsolete. You're not even going to use it after that. Like, could you imagine just like that level of technology? You're like, how is this going to be obsolete?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of research that went into this, and this is already doing everything that we want it to.
yeah.
And you have certain things that they can do it better, they can do more, that you didn't know that you wanted. Like for instance, I think a major component of the smartphone industry was definitely the iPod. When the iPod came out, that showed a lot of people things that they wanted on their cell phone.
Yeah.
Just to have that library of music, to have the screen bigger, like stuff like that. Because remember when we were in high school, you had your flip phone and the screen was what, like 2 inches by 2 inches.
If
It
not
was,
smaller.
yeah, it was tiny, and now we're getting screens that are so big I can barely fit my phone in my pocket.
Yeah, the new Samsung phones just released, and they have like, I think the biggest one is the Ultra, and it has like a 6.8 or a 6.9 inch screen.
Hmm.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I can't really talk. I have a large screen on my phone.
Yeah.
Well, you can't talk either. You have, you have the Note 10 or the 20?
Oh, I've got the Note 10.
Okay.
Oh, the Note 10 Plus. The Yeah, because the 20 hadn't come out yet when I had bought this phone, and I'm not gonna buy a new phone just after
Yeah,
I
no,
got this one.
I don't doubt, I don't blame you. I have the Note 9, just because I didn't. I mean, I just paid it off like last year, I think.
Yeah.
I think I paid it off last year, like halfway through the year, but I just didn't feel a need to upgrade because to me the 10's not that much better than the 9.
Hmm.
I mean, it is better, but it's not that much better. It's not like, oh my god. I think I really really like the new S21 Ultra, but
I haven't seen that one.
I'm not sure if I want that one or if I want to wait until they come out with the Note. The S
Oh, they are not going to. They've already said that the reason why they went to the S20 is that they are essentially combining the Galaxy and the Note into one simple product. So like, there's
so
not going to be a Note.
that's why the Ultra. Okay, I was wondering why they did that. Okay, so I'm not sure if all there's three models of the S21,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure about the other two because I haven't really looked at them. Because I if I'm gonna get a phone, I want it to be the best one, and the
Right.
Ultra is the best of the three. So that's the one I've researched. It has S Pen. It is
Hmm.
the first Galaxy S series or S Galaxy Galaxy S
Yeah,
Galaxy
Galaxy
S
S.
series to
Excuse me.
have S Pen compatibility. And
Right.
I
Yeah,
was
and that's
wondering
yeah.
why they did that. Well, that explains it.
Because I had been researching that when I bought my Note 10, because they were talking about the S20, which hadn't come out yet, and so I was doing all that. And like, oh no, they're just getting rid of the Note line and just taking the features that were for the Note and just putting it in the Galaxy.
Well, to be honest, I don't even use my stylus. I use my stylus that's in my phone. I've had a Note. Every phone that I've had
Hmm.
for the last 8 years has been a Note.
Yeah.
Because I had that side. It was like a sidekick type esque. It was a sidekick esque phone. It was that
Hmm.
LG. You remember that one? You had it,
Yeah.
and so I got
Yeah.
it. Okay, I had that, and then I got the Motorola Razr,
Yeah.
and then I went from the Motorola Razr to the Note 3, and I had the
Yeah.
Note
Yeah.
3, and I had the Note 5, and I had the Note 3, 5, and 9. Yeah. I think I had the Note 5, the 3, the 5, and the 9.
Hmm.
I had the 5 for an extra year, and I've had the 9 for an extra year. I didn't get because the 9 came out, and then the 10 came out, and then the 20 came out.
Yeah.
There is a Note 20, um, but if they're not going to come out with a Note 21, I may just go ahead and get the because the Galaxy Ultra comes out. Well, I think it already came out. It either came out on the 14th or it comes out today. I'm pretty sure there was a 4 in it, but I can't be 100% sure. Um, I really like that phone. It's got like a 6.9 inch screen, or 6.8, 6.9. It's got almost no bezel around the outside edge. It's very, very small, and they made the camera even smaller. To be honest, that was one of the. I mean, I would probably get used to it, but that's probably one of the biggest things I hated about the Note 10 was I don't like the fact that it just has a camera in the middle of the screen. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's got stuff all around it. Like me personally, I would rather not have a camera on the front a camera on the front of my phone than to have that.
Mm.
Like why? Why do you need a selfie camera? I don't understand why you
I think
have to have that.
that's just pandering to the market, I would say. So many people use it, to use selfies and stuff. That, and especially, I know a lot of, especially younger, like vloggers will just use
Mhm.
their phone, and they like to see how they're looking at the time to make sure if they need to fix something or if they've got someone in the background,
I
things like
guess,
that.
the only thing that I could think of where it would become like a quote unquote necessity would be like video calls. Like you want to be able to see them as they're
Right.
seeing you. I guess that's my antisocial nature. I don't video call anybody.
No.
So there's that. Um we're coming up on 50 minutes. Um I think we may cut this one a little short this
All
morning.
right.
Not super short. Um, was there any other things that you wanted to discuss besides our electronic tangent?
um,
Because I can talk
I
about
wish.
electronics all day long.
Yeah. Uh, Sorry, I'm looking to make sure what I said was accurate about the note, about it essentially being discontinued. But I don't know. I'll look for that later. Uh, One thing I will mention real quick is that
Mm-hmm.
last night I went through and I watched our podcast on YouTube, and I used the auto-generated subtitles.
Uh huh.
Surprisingly accurate.
Really?
Yeah, like I
Hmm.
almost like I'd say at least above a 95% accuracy rating.
Are
Like it
they?
was.
What generates them? Is it like an AI script that generates the subtitles, or is it just
Yeah, yeah. It's
listen to
through
you?
YouTube. Because on every video you can do auto-generated subtitles,
Uh huh.
which just uses like AI and stuff. And most of the time, I'll watch videos like Markiplier or someone else, and they are just very, very wrong. But on our podcast, they were extremely accurate. Um, with very few times where like we said a word and it didn't realize what we said.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the auto subtitles censor certain words, so that's interesting.
Right. Well, I mean, if it works, it works. It saves you
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you don't have to subtitle them. I don't generally watch subtitles on YouTube videos, unless they're like in a foreign language,
Hmm.
and then of course I'll watch the subtitles. But like on movies and stuff, heck, I've I use subtitles on movies all the time.
Yeah, just in case, like you're a little distracted, you didn't catch what was last said, you can look up, catch it, or, just, I don't know. It's like
I
there's
think
something about reading it and having the visual that helps, like, really immerse me.
I think the biggest thing for me personally is like YouTube videos to me are not as important,
Yeah.
like or vice versa. If okay, so the main reason I have subtitles in movies, right, is
Hmm.
because movies are dynamic. You've got highs, you've got lows, you've got highs, you've got lows, you've got this person talking, that person talking, This person might be talking, but they might be further away, so it's harder to hear them. And sometimes, especially with a lot of movies, is I find that when they're in quieter scenes, I have a hard time hearing them unless I
Hmm.
jack the volume through the roof. But then I've got to turn it down in 5 minutes whenever the action scene starts anyway.
Right.
So, and I
Right.
don't like to constantly have the remote in my hand, turn up, turn down, turn up, turn
Hmm.
down. I don't want to do that. But movies have a dynamic range of sound. You know, it might be
Hmm.
quiet and it might be super loud, and it might be quiet and it might be super loud. And it also depends on who made the movie, right? Because
Yeah.
some movies, they have a good, like, their lows are more towards the middle and their highs are more towards the middle, so the whole movie kind of flows.
Right.
But there are some very high budget movies that do not have that suck. And, like, if I have the subtitles there and they say a word and I don't catch it, I know what they said anyway because I just read it.
Hmm.
And I read way faster than I should. You
Well, I mean,
know,
like, yeah.
when I read, I don't think I'm reading that fast, right? When I'm reading,
Hmm.
I feel like I'm reading slow. But when I read and I'm reading with somebody else, like even when I'm reading with Demon, like I thought he read pretty quick. But I'll finish the page and I'll be like going to scroll down and he'll be like, because sometimes we'll be reading the same article, or like looking at
Yeah.
the screen, or sometimes we'll be reading the same piece of paper, like if we're at work, and I'll be going to
Yeah.
turn the page or going to scroll, and he's like, whoa, 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 hold on, I'm not done.
Mm.
And I'm like, I've been done for like a full minute, and I figured a full minute would be enough for you to get to the end. It's even worse when it's not Nick, it's somebody else.
Mm.
I'm just like, wow, you're slow. Stop being so slow.
We
But
have had a lifetime worth of practice reading.
well, that's true. But like, because a lot of people, whenever I'm like at work and they're like, how do you watch Japanese shows? How do you watch Korean shows or whatever? And I'm like, just read the subtitles. But
Yeah.
that's too much work. What?
It's
What do
just a
you
glance.
mean? I don't even have to actively read it. I can just look at it and I just
Yeah.
read it. Like, it's literally, I mean, I am reading it, but it's not like I'm sitting there staring at the
Focused.
screen,
Yeah.
focused, reading each word. Like, I see the sentence, I've just read that sentence.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of crazy. I was reading this, or I would say I'm reading. I wasn't reading it. I was watching it on YouTube. It was about this guy, and he was talking about speed reading, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, a lot of people that speed read, but they don't even know it. Because I read relatively quickly, but I don't read
Yeah.
as fast as some people. I've seen some people that read really fast.
Right.
But what it is the guy was talking about how speed readers, a lot of speed readers that you see, especially ones that are portrayed in like TV shows or movies, they'll have a pen or they'll use their finger and they'll move it down the middle of the page,
Yeah.
and then they'll just move it down the page and then they'll go to the next page and they'll read it. It's because when speed readers read, they focus on the center of the page or the center of whatever they're reading, right? And
Hmm.
they let their peripheral read the rest of it, and they just focus on the center and move down. So
Interesting.
really, they're not reading the full everything. They're doing what you were just saying. They're seeing it and comprehending it at a glance, but they're
Hmm.
really only focused on the center, because if your eyes are on the center, they can see everything. And
Yeah.
you've probably done it, because I do it sometimes without
Yeah.
realizing it. I'll be reading and I'll just be reading, and I'll get to thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm not reading every word. And I'm
Well, because
like, I've done missed something. I've got to go back, and I'll go back and I'm rereading it. And I'm like, I didn't miss anything.
it's like when it comes to conversation, you're not listening to every single word. You know
Right.
you take pieces of that sentence that you heard or that you just read, and then your brain, which is so advanced, is able to take those small bits and essentially recreate the entire sentence out
Mm-hmm.
of context.
Yeah.
I mean, or with context, so that you don't have to get every single word. And that's one of the things with speed reading is that essentially you're looking for keywords almost. Like
Yeah.
you're looking for okay, what's the subject, what's the verb, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Everything else is flavor text.
My thing is like you were saying, you don't even have to hear the whole conversation. One of my really bad habits is like when I hear somebody, or
Hmm.
say somebody says something to me, but I don't quite understand what they said, or I don't quite hear it. Like maybe they said it too quiet, or maybe
Yeah.
my attention was somewhere else and they said it. I wasn't paying attention, so I was like, I go, what? But then my brain is like, you
They said
heard what
this. Yeah.
you heard what they said. Let me play it back for you. And then I'm like, oh yeah. And then I answer their question. They're like, well, why did you ask? And I was like, well, I didn't really hear it. At
Yeah.
then, well, by the time I turned all the way around, I replayed it, comprehended it, realized what you said. So here lately, I've been getting really good about that at work, not
Yeah.
saying what. I'll just answer their question.
Yeah. And that's what it means to be fluent in a language, right? I mean, like you may not have been like focused. You heard it and then you processed it and then you understood it.
Right,
Because like when you're listening, especially like if you're listening to a podcast, you're not always 100% paying attention, but you can get the gist.
right.
Um, and that's why learning a new language is so hard because you're essentially focusing on every single word.
Mhm.
Because you can't just you're not doing what you're used to, which is just okay. Let's hear it and then process it.
Right. I mean, you got to think about it. People they say you're not, but I mean, oh, I have done a lot of research about that here lately because I kind of you've learned a couple of languages, right? You
Hmm.
know English pretty fluently. I mean,
I would hope so.
you're pretty much a master at the English language, at least as far as speaking it goes.
Hmm.
Um, but where would you put yourself in Japanese? Would you say that you're fluent, conversational, or would you say that you are quote unquote fluent?
I actually think I'm still a beginner, simply because that language is so large.
Right.
Like, okay, I spent 3 years studying it. I can get the structure, but it comes back to what I was talking about. Like, I still have to, kind of focus on what I'm listening to or what I'm reading to comprehend it. I can't do that where, I'll just read a sentence real quick. It takes me much longer to read in Japanese because I'm like, okay, well, what's this word? What's this word? What's this word?
Right.
Re- because it's just I don't like part of it comes down to practice. When it comes to English, I've had 28 years of practice with reading and speaking. Well,
Yeah.
26, I guess. But with another language, like when we took French, right, in high school,
Right.
I had a much easier time with that simply because the alphabet was similar and the structure was similar. But in Japanese, the structure is different. And so it's much harder to become fluent for English speakers.
Mm-hmm.
They say you have to totally immerse yourself for 2 years to become fluent in Japanese, and that means you go there, you speak only Japanese, you only hear Japanese. There is no English.
See,
So I'm definitely not fluent because I took the the earlier test for Japanese literacy or the language test. And while I passed that, like I've read about people who took the top level A1, which should mean you're fluent, should mean you're at native level when it comes to understanding Japanese. And then they'll have a conversation with someone and they won't get a single thing,
yeah.
either because that person is speaking much faster than they're used to, or their brain is just having trouble, you know?
Right. Well, I've been doing a lot of research because I've always wanted to learn like a full second language, like learn another language. Like I know some French and I know a little bit of Japanese and I know a little bit of Spanish and I know
Hmm.
like a couple of words in German, but like I don't know any other languages, like I'm not fluent. And so I was doing a little bit of research on like what does it mean to be fluent in a language? Some people say,
Right.
"Oh, well, you can pass this test." Japanese has all the tests. They have the N, what is it? The N1, the this, the that, the
Yeah. The
A1.
N5. Yeah. The
Yeah.
N5.
So that
The
they have all these tests, right? I'm sure other languages have those tests or proficiency kind of based tests. And
Right.
some people say you're fluent in a language if you can hold a conversation for more than a minute or so, or if you can not necessarily hold a conversation, but if you can understand some or most of what people are saying to you,
Mm-hmm.
or and kind of like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the people's opinion of fluent is different. Now I can't
Because.
remember where I got this from. I wrote it down. I actually have it on a notebook. Like it was sitting over there, and I went over there and got it real quick. I got this. I believe it was from a website. It was back whenever I was trying to decide what language I wanted to learn.
Uh-huh.
I wrote this, I think, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. They categorized languages. Now, I didn't write them all down. I only wrote down the ones that I was interested in.
Uh-huh.
But according to them being the whatever, I think it was actually a government site. Maybe like it was some kind of united language
Mm.
thing. It was like maybe from the United Nations or something. Well, anyways, it says to become sufficient, not fluent, not master, sufficient. To
Mm-hmm.
become sufficient in a language. Now, this is based off the fact that I'm an English speaker. It's different
Right.
if you speak something else.
Right.
So category 1, these languages in category 1 would take you about 600 hours of study to become sufficient. Not
Mm-hmm.
fluent, sufficient. Dutch, French, Spanish, or like Swedish.
Yeah.
Because they all use our alphabet or really close to it, maybe some
Mm-hmm.
slight variations. Now, category 2 is only a 150-hour increase. It goes from 600 to 750, and that's German.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, German has a different structure.
Then I wasn't interested in any of the category 3 languages, so it skips to category 4. 1,100 hours of study
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
become sufficient. Greek and Russian. And then the next step up is category 5. 2,200 hours.
Yeah.
That is a lot of hours. 2,200 hours to become sufficient as an English speaker in Japanese, Mandarin, or Korean.
Right. Because like
Cantonese,
a
Cantonese
lot
is
of
also
people are
in there,
like,
but
"Wow, you studied Japanese for 3 years. You must be really good." It's like I can hold a basic conversation and I can get across my needs and stuff, but knowing how much is still left for me to learn is why I say I'm a beginner.
well, even
Because
if
like,
even if you studied 1 hour every single day for those 3 years,
hmm
that's only 1,095 hours.
yeah,
And I mean, there might have been some days where you practiced 4 or 5 hours,
hmm
but there might have been a week or two where you just didn't do any.
yeah,
Because you were either busy or you were on spring break or whatever. You know, that's one of the things that's it's always like I wish I had started doing some of the things like I've always wanted to kind of like learn how to play the piano, right?
hmm
And I'm not awful at it. I mean, there I can play a couple songs. I cannot play them fast, but I know enough about music and kind of music theory. We were in band in high school. Like I can play the piano. It's
hmm
just awful. But it's because I don't practice. I don't ever play it. It's been sitting over there in the corner since I put it there 5, 6 weeks ago.
yeah,
Like I don't make it a habit. If I were to play it, say I were to start playing 30 minutes a day,
hmm
in a year I might actually be pretty decent.
yeah,
But as human beings, we are so entrenched with this quick satisfaction.
The
Or
dopamine rush. Yeah.
what's the there's a better term than quick satisfaction. What is it? Instant gratification.
Gratification. Yeah.
There we go. It's a cultural instant gratification type of thing where, like, yeah, I could study Spanish for an hour every day, or I could watch YouTube for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If I took, let's just go with, if I took 1/10 of the time that I spent wasting time
Mm-hmm.
and put it towards any one thing: Spanish, Japanese, piano, guitar. I wanted to learn how to play the guitar. I wanted to learn how to do this. I wanted to learn how to do that. If I took 1/10 of the time that I've wasted on YouTube and put it towards one of those things, I'd probably be fluent, or at least like say music wise, I would probably be able to play stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
not a novice, but not an advanced, but like an intermediate level player. Because YouTube does not log how many hours you've spent watching videos, but I've probably seen 20,000 hours worth of videos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've watched a ton of YouTube in the last 5 or 6 years.
Like if we go and we look, kind of at like I've spent 400 hours playing, like Terraria,
Uh huh.
and essentially, like based on what you told me, that's almost enough to have learned an entirely new language, to learn Spanish or French and to be fluent
Mm-hmm.
in it. And I was just playing a game kind of with my brain off.
You know, I think I think another part of it is, for me,
Mm-hmm.
is I I am more of an auditory learner
Mm.
than a. Now, don't get me wrong, I can learn stuff by reading. I mean, I've
Yeah.
learned a lot of stuff by reading. But I'm more of an auditory learner, and I think that's one of the reasons why I had such an easy time learning French. Like, French was just so easy to me back then. Like, when we
Yeah.
were learning French, like, I have a hard time remembering, like, the conjugation and stuff like that now. But then, the conjugation was so easy, I could remember all
Yeah.
of it. Like I didn't have it. Like, Miss King used to always say we were using our French brain. Like, there
Right.
there were days where I didn't even think in English when I was in her class. I just thought in
Mm-hmm.
French. Because, I mean, what we were thinking about was not all that complicated.
No.
Like, it wasn't like I was contemplating the universe. I do that in my spare time. I don't do that in French class. But like, it was easy for me to switch to my French speaking brain.
Right.
And I just thought in French. Like, if she asked me a question, I didn't think of, oh, what, she asked me this and that translates to this, and then I need to answer this and that
Mm-hmm.
translates to that. There was not that. She asked me
Yeah.
this in French and I answer this in French.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I asked a buddy of mine. He's fluent in both. He's bilingual. He speaks both
Mm-hmm.
French and English. And I asked him one time. I said, "When you think, do you think in English or in Spanish?" And he goes, both."
Yeah.
He's like, "I might be thinking in Spanish, and then I'll turn around and I'll be thinking in English, and then I'll turn back around and I'll be thinking in Spanish again." He's like, "It just kind of interchangeable."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking, like, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Spanish is something that I would love to learn. I mean, yes, Japanese would also be something I would love to learn, but Spanish has the most practical application because I work with a lot of Spanish speaking individuals.
Right.
And, like, it would be so, like, helpful if I could help explain things to them in their language, like, because most of them speak some English, and
Mm-hmm.
they're most of them understand it better than they speak it. So like if
Yeah.
I'm speaking to them, they know what I'm saying, but sometimes when they're speaking to me, I am guessing
Hmm.
because their English is not as good. But I mean, I'm smart enough that I can figure out what they're talking about just by them pointing and you know getting the words out that they can get out. But
Right.
not everybody can do that.
Hmm.
You know, I used to work with a dude. His name was Jose. I used to work with him. I worked with him like every day for 2 years, and like I didn't have any problem understanding him. But he doesn't speak very good English.
Hmm.
But I never had a problem understanding him because I spent so much time with him. I mean, I spent like out of a 12-hour workday, I was with him for probably 10 of those hours every day for 2 years.
Hmm.
You know, like he was speaking English, it just wasn't all that great. But I mean, I got it. But a lot of people are like, how do you understand him? I'm like,
Mm.
how do you not? He's speaking English. They're like, oh, I just have a hard time understanding him. But it's like you know, we were talking about just a little bit ago, like time. If you spend enough time doing anything, you're gonna become good at it, or
Yeah.
at least semi mediocre.
The
Like
the rule of thumb is if you spend 10,000 hours doing a particular thing, you will become a master.
ten
You
thousand
know, whether
hour,
that be,
10,000
I
hours
mean,
is a lot of time.
yeah, but when I say master, they mean master. Like not
Yeah.
good at it, but like you are great. Like if you spend 10,000 hours working on carpentry or working on coding or anything like that, you have so much experience and so much knowledge that it's just innate to you at that point.
For those of you without a calculator, 10,000 hours at 1 hour every day is 27 years.
Yep.
Almost 27 and a half is 27.39 and some other decimals. But
I mean, it's the
I have a calculator.
yeah.
I'm not a math
Yeah.
genius. We need
It's a
we need
large
demon
time investment.
we need demon for that.
Yeah. But it's a large time investment, but like at that point, if you've been doing it for that long, you know it, right? Like if you
Right.
go and you talk to someone who's been playing the piano since, they were 5 years old and they're in their 60s, they know how to play the piano.
Well, it's
You know,
like
sometimes they can't explain why, but they know how to do it very well.
right. Like my biggest thing is like where I work, right? It's not a complicated job. Um I've been there for I'm coming up on 6 years that I've been there, right?
Hmm.
And like when I first started working there, I had no knowledge of the machinery. Zero.
Right.
And just in those 6 years, like I've worked there for 6 years. So and I work about half the year. So 365 divided by 2 times that by 12 hours
Hmm.
times that by 6 years. I have worked on those machines for 13,000 hours.
Hmm.
There is very little on those machines I do not know how to fix.
Yeah.
Am I a complete master? No, because every once in a while there's something new that I've never seen before.
Right.
You know, um, but for the most part, there's not any problems that I cannot fix or that I can't figure out how to fix in a
Hmm.
relatively short matter of time. You know, but you don't think about it. You know, I didn't even think about it until you were talking about the 10,000 hours thing.
Hmm.
Like I've literally put in now. That's a rough number because for one, I don't work on the machine every
Right.
like for the full 12 hours every day, but I am
Right.
around them.
Yeah.
No, I'm around them. I'm watching them. I'm seeing them. You know, and I work. You know, a lot of hours. That's a lot of time spent. You know, and I just haven't put that into my outside of work life.
Yeah.
Now we've had this conversation before, not on stream, not on the podcast, and maybe it's something that we can talk about in the next session. But one of the things that has always boggled my mind is when I'm at work, I can give 110% all day long,
Hmm.
and you would think like so when I'm at work I can give 110%, but when I'm on my own time I cannot give 110%.
Right. Well, I know we were talking. I'm going to bring it back to language for a second. It comes down to fatigue, right? Like you've worked so hard that it's hard to play at that point. Because there'll be days where I studied Japanese for 6 hours in a single day, and by the end of that 6 hours, my brain was so fatigued I could barely register basic Japanese. And so, I have to go and I have to rest up a little bit because the human body is just not designed to go at 100% all the time. That's why we have to sleep.
Right.
You know, it's just unfortunately one of the things that we cannot go 100% all the time, but we are very efficient at what we do.
That was one of the thing about it is like I have some coworkers like right,
Hmm.
and one in particular, I won't say his name. I don't know that he'll ever watch this, but I won't say his name. But when he's at work, he does not give 100%
Hmm.
ever. Now he doesn't miss work. He is always there. He never misses work unless he's like majorly sick or like I don't think he's missed a day in the last couple of years.
Mm.
Like he doesn't miss work. But when he's there, he does not give 100%. He
Hmm.
gives around 50 or 60%. But when he's not at work, he's doing other stuff. He's got these
Right.
side businesses, he's got this stuff, he's got that stuff. He's always working for himself. And one of the things he told me, or one of the things he tells people, is he's like, I can't give all of my energy to work because they don't really care about me.
Hmm.
He's like, but I care about me, so I am only going to give 50 or 60% to them, and I'm going to give the other 40 to 50% to myself.
Right.
And to me, I understand that. Logically, I understand that. But I cannot make myself not give 100% or more when I am at work. Like when
Right.
I am at work, even though it's not even for me, like it's for them, it's for the company, I don't know how not to do the best that I can possibly give.
Hmm.
Even though in the back of my head, I know that as good as I am and as much as I know, they would replace me in a heartbeat if they had to.
Hmm.
And like, that kind of makes you really stop and think like if I know that in my heart of hearts that they don't really care about me as an individual because we're corporate owned.
Yeah.
Corporate doesn't know individuals' names.
Hmm.
You know, at least most corporations don't. I know my corporation doesn't. But most corporations they don't know your individual names. Your plant manager might know your name if they
Hmm.
work with you long enough. But my thing is even knowing that, like, how do you break the cycle so that you can do more for yourself in your own time?
I can't answer that unfortunately because I don't know either. I mean,
I just,
it's
it's kind of crazy, you know. It's like one of those. It's kind of like people talk about irrational fears,
right.
right? While that's not a fear, it is irrational because logically, I understand that they don't really care and that maybe I shouldn't, but the other part of me that wants to be the best that I can be wants to give 100%, but I want to be the best that I can be outside of work too. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I give so much at work that when I'm on my own time, I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna be lazy today. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna do those things that I said I was gonna do. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna enjoy my time. But
Yeah.
then it goes back to instant gratification. You know, I'd rather sit here and watch some YouTube videos because that's gonna bring me a little bit of joy than it would be to spend a couple hours trying to learn Spanish and getting frustrated with myself. You know?
Yeah. Sorry, you reminded me. So I'm not going to talk about it this time. I'll talk about it next time. But you reminded me of something that I kind of want to talk about.
I need to write a note. So next time.
'Cause it's kind of what I've been doing as we're going down. I've got like a text file open that I'm just typing stuff into.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z. uh, ne-
Anyway, this is probably a pretty good point to end. I know you're probably
yeah,
tired.
yeah. My brain is fried, but
Yeah.
you know how it is.
So I'll go ahead and start our outro. So thank you to everyone who stuck around till the end, that watched it, or thank you to anyone who even caught it, for a little bit. You didn't have to stick around for the whole thing. We're mainly just figuring stuff out at this point. But I think we're enjoying ourselves, and hopefully we'll get better as we go on. So you have any, ending remarks, Aaron? Or sorry.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have any ending remarks. I hope that if you are watching or that you enjoyed it. I know that it was kind of a little bit random. Um, and hopefully we'll get a little more structure and maybe a little bit of feedback, and we can plan accordingly. If people would rather more structure, then we'll give more structure. If they'd rather it be more spontaneous and off the cuff, we got that too.
All right. So thank you for watching. This has been Aeon Wraith and Red Shadow. We will be live again next Sunday, somewhere around 8 to 8:30. So you can expect us around that time, and it will be a similar length. So thank you for watching, and please come back.